Warning: this podcast may contain offensive language, harsh criticisms of religion, the occasional political rant, and science talk, which some see as alternative facts.
In fact, I don't even like the multiverse, but I've learned to force my beliefs to conform to the evidence of reality. That's where science differs from religion.
Welcome to the Recklessly Skeptical Podcast.
Hey there, our wonderful fans. This is Joe.
My name is Josh.
And my name is Matt.
It is February 19th, and we're just having a good time here.
So good.
So good. You guys ready for a stolen thought?
Sure.
Are we going to jump right into it? Are we not going to discuss our wonderful weekend?
No.
I mean, you may have had a good weekend, but
I didn't have to work yesterday.
good job.
I like it when I actually get 2 days for a weekend instead of one. That's always nice.
It is.
Hell yeah. All right. Winston Churchill, guys.
Who is that?
Who is Winston?
He was on Epic Rap Battles, man.
Oh, that's right. I remember.
All right, here we go. Quote, politicians complaining about the press are like sailors complaining about the sea. You got that, Trump?
No, I agree with that 100%. Thank you, Winston Churchill, for seeing Trump in the future.
Well, I mean, it's like any dictatorial person who's always complained about the press. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, talking about Turkey nowadays, you're talking about Russia back when Stalin was in charge. I mean, the press is just a tool to either get truth or to get propaganda. So
Yeah, to legitimize his narrative that he's pushing. That's how he legitimizes it, and that's in quotes, is by demonizing the media.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we'll have to get into a more nuanced conversation about it some other time because it's something that is very nuanced.
We could probably talk about this for a whole podcast.
Yeah, we could. But now it's time for the Gallup poll. If my computer will load. So this is the Gallup Daily Trump approval. So right now, he's gone back up to 41%. His low is 38%. But last week he was right around 41% approval rating, and his disapproval rating is up to 55%. Real unemployment is 9.4%. The good jobs is 44.1. Engaged at work is 32.1. Economic confidence is 7. Consumer spending is at $93, and his approval rating, is at 41. All right.
Who's your guys' favorite creationist?
Let me see. Ken Ham rings a bell because of his debate with Bill Nye.
Well, this story is about Ken Ham. So he has a new diorama at the Ark encounter, and it has dinosaurs, giants fighting humans in like a gladiator style ring. So a new display going into the creationist Noah Ark's attraction in Kentucky shows what appears to be a gladiator-style fights involving humans, giants, and a dinosaur. Ken Ham, founder of the group that runs the attraction, tweeted images of the new diorama on Thursday.
I just want to say, just in case they show us any pictures, I just keep picturing one of those balloon dinosaurs people always wear and run around. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, there are pictures, and sadly, it's not like that. But that would have been more fitting if it was So Ham, who believes in a strict literal interpretation of the Bible, claims the planet is roughly 6,000 years old, that humans existed alongside dinosaurs, and that Noah even carried dinosaurs with him on the ark during a global flood roughly 4,300 years ago. Scientists, obviously, estimate that dinosaurs died out 65 million years ago, or a good 64.8 million years before the first Homo sapiens, who evolved roughly 200,000 years ago. And just to end this article, there's no scientific evidence for a race of giants. This is coming from the Huffington Post.
But Matt, I've seen pictures of them digging up 13-foot tall men.
Actually, they're so oddly enough, while they're not the class Homo. There are I want to remember the name. It's the giant gorilla.
Here's the picture.
That's insane.
Look at the giant compared to this little lady's like up to the dude's thigh. And it's all gladiator style.
Oh gosh.
See?
Huh.
Yeah, but there's a class of monkeys. Well, not monkeys. They're great apes called Gigantopithecus. And this is something I learned in anthropology, and they died out a while ago, like way before this could have happened. But they're roughly 3 meters tall, so that would be 12 feet.
Oh wow!
Or no,
9 feet.
9 feet. Yep. But yeah, I mean,
that's pretty tall.
That absolutely is in no way saying that he's the least bit right. And my other favorite creationist, just for the record, is Kirk Cameron and Ray Comfort.
Oh, God.
Okay, yeah.
The Banana Man.
The Banana Man.
It fits perfectly in your hand.
And in your
Well,
ass.
so does a penis. Does that make me gay then?
Yeah. And it fits in your ass, too.
Yeah.
The banana or Joe's hand?
The banana or a penis.
Ah.
I wouldn't say perfectly.
Yeah.
I'd say there'd probably be some bleeding. Is that gross? Are we being vulgar?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, maybe we should move on.
Okay, let's move on. I'm okay with that. So this is coming from Roll Call. All right, so lawmakers looking to draw attention to pet issues have formed groups in favor of everything from auto care to zoos. Now there's a caucus for cannabis. Representative Earl Blue Manure said the move, to be announced at a press conference Thursday, is a sign of how mainstream the drive for marijuana legalization has become. This is happening all across the country, and it's going to continue, said the Oregon Democrat, an advocate for legalized marijuana since the 1970s. The industry is growing, as is public acceptance and demand for medical marijuana. He is one of the caucus founding members, along with California Republican Dana Rohrabacher, Colorado Democrat Jared Polis, and Alaska Republican Don Young. A wave of states approved recreational marijuana in November, a seeming boon for the argument that federal laws and regulations need to be revised to keep up. But it remains to be seen whether new Attorney General Jeff Sessions, a longtime foe of legalized marijuana, will roll back Obama-era policies that have allowed pot business to flourish in states where it is legal. The marijuana industry, brought in $6.7 billion in legal sales in the U.S. last year. The figure is expected to grow for 8 states, including the economic bellwether of California. They passed relation referendums in November as well. All right, so Congress passed a spending bill in 2014 that prohibits the Justice Department from using federal money to prosecute medical marijuana businesses in states where it's legal. The prohibition, co-sponsored by Rohrabacher, must be reapproved every fiscal year. One opponent of marijuana legislation, though, questioned the need for a cannabis caucus. Kevin Sabet, president of Smart Approaches to Marijuana and a former White House advisor, pointed to records that showed the caucus members had taken donations from pot lobbyists, the Marijuana Policy Project, and the National Cannabis Industry Association. So it's not surprising they are forming a group to please their donors, he said. The Cannabis Caucus will focus initially in increasing medical research and revising banking and tax regulations that impede legal marijuana business. Blumenar, or whatever his goddamn name is.
Blumenar.
Yeah, Blumenar. Manure.
Yeah.
Measures that would address each of those issues have received broad support in both the House and the Senate in previous Congresses. These are things that aren't strictly partisan, Blumenar said. So they're starting a caucus, which is really interesting. And my next story kind of goes along with this. It has a lot to do with the DEA.
Yeah, so they're just getting ready to make it legal at some point.
At some point, exactly. And it's looking more and more like that. And okay, all right, so this is coming from The Hill. All right, and it is by Steph Sherry. Doesn't matter.
Matters in their heart.
It matters in their heart, yes. I wrote it. Okay, so recently the drug... Okay, you guys, this is really important stuff. All right. So recently the Drug Enforcement Administration quietly removed a report from its website suggesting that it's finally giving up the false theories that cannabis is a gateway drug or that it causes permanent brain damage or psychosis. These myths have been at the heart of positions held by marijuana prohibitionists and often served as their platform when voting against medical cannabis legislation. The good news is that prohibitionists that have been holding out support for medical cannabis policy can now let science guide their policy-making decisions. The bad news is, unless elected officials read the DEA's denial of petition to initiate proceedings to reschedule marijuana, issued August 12th of 2016, they would still see outdated information being disseminated by the DEA. Americans for Safe Access, the organization I founded, the woman who wrote the article, is trying to remedy this problem by utilizing our members' rights, and under the Information Quality Act, we've had mixed results. So on December 5th, 2016, ASA submitted an IQA request for correction of information disseminated by the DEA regarding marijuana or cannabis, which cites 25 violations under the IQA. Specifically, the request states that the DEA website contained inaccurate statements about cannabis. 1, the gateway drug hypothesis. 2, irreversible cognitive decline in adults. And 3, cannabis causing psychosis. The Department of Justice Information Quality Guidelines require that the DEA respond to a request for correction within 60 calendar days. All right, so this is important right here. While neither the DEA nor the Department of Justice responded to ASA's request, the document, the dangers, or quote, the dangers and consequences of marijuana abuse, unquote, which contained the majority of the inaccurate statements, was removed from the DEA's website. Okay? So to me, that shows the DEA is in fact admitting that they are publishing false information about cannabis. All right? What do you think, Josh?
Well, I mean, like, we know that people have published false information, including the government. The government founded the program that put out a lot of propaganda about marijuana.
Yeah.
And the government holds patents on certain things regarding marijuana. At the same time, it's a Schedule 1 that means it has no medical use, which is an absolute contradiction.
So, but now that the DEA is removing false information from their website, I think that could start a chain of events.
I think you're being overly optimistic, honestly.
You think I am?
Yeah, I don't think anything positive towards marijuana legalization is going to happen with the administration Trump has put in place. Because that's what the council is in charge of. So he has a cabinet, and the cabinet is over certain things. And like, the person who he put in charge of the DEA is not going to lighten marijuana laws.
Well, if they admit that they're putting misinformation out to the public, which they basically just did by removing the misinformation from the website, I think that can help cause, or like if let's say it goes to the Supreme Court for some reason. All right, so could that happen? Someone sues a state that they're in because they get in trouble for marijuana.
Well, I mean, that's a complex issue. Like, because if they're receiving it with the intention to deal, that's a federal issue. If they're receiving it just to smoke it, like if I got caught by a cop with a $10 baggie on me, like I would be charged with a state offense. So like there wouldn't be an appeals process, because also the DEA is able to choose the scheduling of drugs. So like there's really no way around getting out of that charge. And even if you were to say, oh well, this is for my life, like this is to improve the quality of my life, they don't give a fuck, because it's still a Schedule 1 drug. Yeah.
Well, all right, I'm going to continue with the article. The confirmation of Jeff Sessions as Attorney General has everyone wondering what he will do about cannabis enforcement. Sessions has been a staunch supporter of the DEA and cites their publications and opinions about marijuana to justify his opposition to medical cannabis policy reform. So, if Jeff Sessions continues to cite the DEA's website, now that the DEA removed all that information, that could be used against him, couldn't it? Like in not in court or anything, because
well, I mean, like you can make an argument against
just
it.
But
what fucking difference is making arguments against the Trump cabinet done anyways? Like,
true.
It's been ridiculed and mocked, and even if he says it, I mean, it's still published somewhere. Just because it's removed from one website doesn't mean that it's more likely to become legal. I mean, even Obama, like, it wasn't even slightly remotely interested in making pot legal. And if he had been, like, we would have legal marijuana. They would have removed the federal regulation against it and changed the schedule. There were a lot of things that could have happened during the Obama presidency, and I don't see any reason to be optimistic that that's going to change during the Trump presidency. I mean, there's a lot of reason to be optimistic that in the future, when a Democrat gets elected, that would be the case.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I see the government agencies and forces studying cannabis more and placing more and more patents on the plant, and then having the pharmaceutical companies take control of cannabis, basically.
Yeah, but the movement. So what makes me more optimistic than them removing some documents is the fact that there's a committee. The first article you read about, that they're getting ready for it to become legal, which means that they're expecting it to become legal at some point.
I think the bigger thing here isn't these agencies removing articles or whatever they removed, but I think it's going state by state becoming legal, whether it's medical or recreational. In a lot of states, they start with medical, and then 4 years, 8 years, 12 years later, they are making it legal recreationally. And I think in the next 2 years, 4 years, most states are going to have it legal in one way or another.
Yeah.
And then if we get a Democrat, like Josh said in there, if every state has it legal and that president is a true progressive, then he would just legalize it or do what he could to get Congress to legalize it.
And it's not even, and I said Democrat because when I think of more people who are more open-minded about drugs, I say Democrat, but there could be some libertarian-leaning Republican that does it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, right now I know that there were some libertarians in Utah who were fighting for whole plant access to get it on the ballot this year in Utah. But also, Matt, the reason why it's important to me that the DEA removed their misinformation about cannabis from their website, it wasn't articles or anything like that. It was straight up information that they had set up about cannabis. So if you search the DEA website and look up cannabis, they had all this horrible information about it. They're removing all of that.
No, that's good. I just don't think that's going to help legalize it necessarily.
The DEA is responsible for it being a Schedule 1
yes.
drug. And so if they're moving stuff like that, I can just see more people, there's lawsuits and shit all over the place about certain things, and I can see someone saying, okay, well, now that why did you remove that information? Oh, well, because it wasn't correct. And it's like, but that's your reasoning for it being illegal. Or
yes,
a Schedule
1. And they might reschedule it.
They might be able to reschedule it because of that one move right there.
Yes, and if they reschedule it to a 2 or whatever, then colleges and universities around the country can do in-depth studies on it, which would just help move the...
And vendors could take credit cards.
Yes.
Did you know that?
Yeah, they deal in cash because banks won't...
Yeah.
They can't do business with them, so it's very dangerous the way it's set up. And if they would, move the schedule and legalize it, then they could deal with banks, and it would be a safer business. It would just make things better. A lot of them have armed guards because they have thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in there.
Yeah. And it's hard to get anything passed here in Utah too, because the Mormon Church holds a lot of sway in legislation.
Yeah.
And stuff. And so don't bring that up into a local cannabis community.
Yeah, Joe and I were kicked out of a Facebook group for weed for here in Utah for simply just acknowledging that the church criticizing the church that they are against medical marijuana, and they kicked us out.
So. For bashing on the church, because we there was a lot of LDS members on that page. And I was like, so Matt got kicked out, and the woman was like, I'm sick of all this bashing. And I'm like, I haven't seen any bashing on the church. But you got to understand that if you want to fix a problem, you have to acknowledge certain issues of that problem. And the church holding sway over legislation is a huge reason why it hasn't passed yet. And so pointing that out, if you consider that bashing, then remove me from the group too. And then the next thing I know, I was removed from the group.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, Facebook drama.
Yay!
All right, so let's go on to the next story.
People are ignorant.
Yes, some of us are. Let me see. So the story I want to go into is a local story, technically. A Utah Republican, and this is in the Washington Post, written by Christine Guerrera. Utah Republican argues against equal pay for women. It's bad for families and society. In a letter criticizing the bill that addresses pay gap in the workforce, a Utah Republican said that men have traditionally earned more than women, and citing simple economics, argued that things should stay that way. James Green's letter to the editor, published in 2 local publications earlier this week, immediately prompted such outrage that within 2 days, Green had written an apology and resigned from his post as vice chair of Wasatch County Republican Party.
Right on.
Green said in his letter, published Wednesday, that the Park Record and the Wasatch Wave, that men make more money because women than women because they are the primary breadwinners of their families, and paying women equally would somehow ruin the makeup of the traditional family where the mother remains home raising the children. So to talk about conservative points, I've read the entire letter that he wrote, and his argument boils down simply that if women make more because of simple economics, men would have to make less. And because of that, more women would have to go to work, and it'd create this vicious cycle where women are forced to go into work who don't want to work, and that men would make less money and feel worse about themselves.
And then it sounds like, and then they wouldn't be able to afford anything if they both were working and making the same amount of money.
Well, yeah, but essentially, so the old tradition, like the old school way of thinking about this, and it's like understood in law, is that women were property, like in a sense. So the men were expected to go home or go out and work and earn the wages, and this is pre-World War II. And then that way they could keep the women at home, and so that they would raise the children because that was the women's job. But women weren't allowed to legally, they weren't allowed to sue men. If there needed to be a lawsuit open up, the man in the marriage would have to open it. And then there were a lot of other things, like a woman couldn't enter into a contract, so she couldn't get a credit card, she couldn't do all these other things. Everything had to essentially run through the man or the head of the household.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of a throwback to that way of thinking. But it's still a silly argument, no matter what, because if 2 people are doing equal work, regardless of what genitalia they have, they should be paid the same.
Now, see, like with me and my fiance, we find it hard to find a babysitter, and babysitters cost so much. So we wouldn't mind if she sat at home raising the kids while I went to work. But that's something we can't do because, even with how much I make, I can't afford all those bills. We need extra income.
Sure.
And so at this point, so it has nothing. I mean, if she was making really good money and I could sit at home with the kids, we would. So it's not like I'm, being misogynistic or anything. It's impossible. Nowadays, the way the government works and everything and all this other shit that's going on, it's impossible for a family to live on one income.
Yeah, and that kind of happened when Americans stopped getting paid for the quality of work that they were doing, because the production in America has gone up drastically, but the minimum pay for Americans is not. And that's something that Bernie Sanders harped on a lot. Yeah,
And it sounds like this guy was trying to say the only reason why that's happening is because women are joining the workforce.
And that's just not true.
Yeah, that's the dumbest shit he could have said.
Let's see him in a Fight for 15 campaign as a Republican and then say this shit.
Yeah.
Like, there's just no way that what he's saying is anything besides a way to fight against equality.
Yeah.
He's just rationalizing it a different way. But that's this article.
Alrighty.
I just want to kick people like that in the nuts. I'm not going to, but I want to. Like, the urge to do it is strong.
Make him a eunuch and find out if he thinks he deserves equal pay.
Yeah, for real. I don't think you deserve equal pay to men. But I am a man. No.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Well, I have a video of our favorite president. I'm just going to, every time I introduce a new person, I'm going to say our favorite creationist, our favorite president, and you'll know that I'm being sarcastic.
Oh, you know what? I really don't hate Ken Ham. Out of all the nemesises that we could have, Ken Ham is fairly hilarious. So
it's because his shit is so dumb.
Yeah.
You know.
It's like Did you hear about Kyrie Irving? You know who that is? The NBA player Kyrie
Oh,
Irving, the
yes.
starter for the
Flat Earth.
Cavaliers, is a flat earther.
Oh my God.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, supposedly. I don't know if he's trolling everybody. He could be, because some of the interview afterwards kind of made it seem like he was trolling, but that might also be him covering for believing something as fucking stupid as flat Earth.
I watched a documentary on Hubble last night, and I was thinking about that. Like, look, the Earth is round. I'm looking at it. But I'm sure those videos are fake. Fake news.
NASA's a cover-up, man. So that, God, the shape or the interdimensional demons can suck our souls.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, I'm going to play this video, and then I want to read one of the comments. It's on YouTube, or it's on Facebook. It's just kind of funny and depressing all at the same time.
The office is so powerful that you need God even more, because your decisions are no longer, gee, I'm going to build a building in New York, or I'm going to do that. These are questions of massive life and death, even with regard to healthcare. So yeah, you realize these decisions are also important. There's almost not a decision that you make when you're sitting in this position that isn't a really life-altering position. So God comes into it even more so.
And people believe that shit just because the inspirational music behind it. Put
Yeah,
some
don't-
stupid clown music behind it. And everything he's saying would sound fucking stupid.
Oh, it's crazy, and you're right. People are buying this, and whether he's Christian or not, the bigger picture is that he's saying he uses God to make his decisions. So let's say he is a Christian and he is using his God. You're just using your own thoughts, you know. God,
Yeah.
Your God usually always agrees with you.
And I don't take it this way. I don't take it that he's a Christian.
I doubt he is, but even if he was.
he might very well be a Christian. But this clip, the way he answered that question was, I would take it insulting if I was Christian, because that's very patronizing. That's like, oh yeah, I believe in God, and I'm gonna do what you guys want me to because I want you to approve of me.
Yeah.
But no, I mean it's.
Well, if I was Christian, I'd be upset by that too, because most Christians feel like, oh, I need God day to day in everything that I do. And he's like, yeah, I didn't really need God until I became president.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, I need God.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I find it so fake and just so like, hey, Christians like me because of what you just said. Yeah.
All right. Somebody on Facebook replied, made a comment on this video. Listen to this. This president, Donald J. Trump, is exactly like King David in the Bible. King David had many, many flaws. After all, he was human. But through all his flaws, God loved King David because he was a loyal servant unto God. I have seen a major change in the POTUS's demeanor lately. He incorporates God in a lot of decision-making processes, and he is open about it. Look, the election is over. If he was only saying things to court the evangelicals and Christians to get elected, why is he not only following through with his promises, but doing more as a true Christian would? Let me say this. This man is a true, modern King David.
First of all,
thank you, Jesus.
he's not following through with his promises. Second of all, hey, in 4 years, there's going to be another election, jackass.
Well,
he is
yeah,
following through with promises, though, for sure.
Some of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, drain the swamp. No, that's
Not that one.
Locker,
No,
no,
not that one.
But build a wall might happen,
And make
also,
the Mexicans pay for it. Oh, wait, that's not happening either.
he still is done a lot against immigration, which was one of those big stances.
Yeah.
And, but the more important thing. So my middle name, I'm actually named after King David.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Yep.
Matt's
And,
Matt's named after David and Goliath.
That's King David.
Is it? Oh,
Yeah.
so Matt is too. Yeah, and I'm named after Joseph Smith.
Oh, I thought Mom just liked the name David.
No.
Yeah, so, I mean, anyways, it's nonsense. So, yeah, this is what King David did during his reign. He fucked some guy's wife, and because he didn't want to get caught, he put her husband into the front line of battle to die. That's how good of a person King David was. It does sound a little Trumpish, actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah, for real, huh? Oh, hey, Matt, guess what?
What?
Mom didn't name me.
Oh, I know. And I got my first name from Jackie.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now that we're out of family discussion, why don't you share a story, Joe?
All right, well, hey, this is coming from I fucking love science.
This is a science story. Dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun, da, 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 da. Wow, that was way off key.
Come on, man.
Not this time.
Oh, you got shut down.
Oh, man.
All right.
Joe. Was that okay?
Yeah, because it was like more like in between coughs and had nothing to do with it, and then it was like sexy Joe.
Science. Take off your clothes. What?
Go.
Okay. All right, I'm going. Jesus. Sirius continues to be a fascinating world, exceeding the expectations of astronomers. The latest news from the dwarf planet is this discovery of organic materials on its surface. In a paper published in Science, an international team has identified an organic-rich area in the northern hemisphere of Sirius, near the Ernatut crater. The region is about 1,000 square kilometers, 386 square miles, and is rich in aliphatic carbons. This is the first time that this signature has been seen so clearly on an asteroid and other airless bodies, lead Arthur Maria Cera de Sanctis said in a press briefing with the Italian National Institute for Astrophysicists. Organics have also been seen on comets, but it was not easily identifiable with a specific kind of organic. But this time they were able to identify them and everything and see that there's a massive amounts of it and stuff.
Yeah.
About 386 square miles.
And so, like, one of the last remaining mysteries in science, probably the greatest remaining mystery in science, is how life came to be in the first place. And one of the ideas is spermia. But essentially, what it is that an asteroid with those compounds fell to Earth. And these aren't things that scientists are saying like, oh yeah, this is the best explanation we could come up with. This is, and because creationists will cite that and say, oh, that's silly that a comet did that. But it's like, no, they have evidence. There's a good reason why this is a possibility is because there's organic material on comets and asteroids. And so if one of those comets hit Earth and it happened to fall into a favorable situation, it could be possible that those amino acids formed into DNA or into predecessors for DNA and replicated.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It turns out that Sirius is also rich in ammonia, carbonates, salt, and water ice. The combined presence of these chemicals in the new discovery of organics suggests that the dwarf planet is a favorable environment for prebiotic chemistry to take place. Sirius, which has been studied by Dawn for 2 years, is the largest body in the asteroid main belt in a unique world of salt volcanoes and disappearing ice volcanoes. Dawn will continue to study it, and when the mission ends, will become a perpetual satellite of Sirius, as it's in a very stable orbit around the dwarf planet. Yeah, it's got all sorts of stuff on it. Just imagine if that planet, like what you were saying earlier, that we believe a lot of those, they're precursors to life, and a lot of those different things. Just imagine if that planet was a little more in the Goldilocks zone.
Yeah, it'd be
Could
hard.
we watch life evolve on that planet?
It would be really hard to imagine what life would be like on something like that because the gravitational field would be so small, and who knows if it has a liquid core, because the liquid core is super important because it stops the radiation from killing us, from frying us alive. Yeah. As well as it does a good job of repelling comets and asteroids. So it's hard to imagine at least advanced life happening there. But once we get probes up to those types of bodies, then we can kind of see what was going on and get a better idea. And it may turn out that what they're able to do is eliminate panspermia as a way that life started on Earth. But maybe what they'll find out is, hey, this is a very possible scenario. Yeah. So as far as like Mythbusters go, it'd be considered a plausible explanation for life. But who knows? I mean, like Earth might have come prepped for that type of thing to happen anyway. Most planets might be prepped or primed with organic molecules ready to go once they hit. So we need to find other bodies in the Goldilocks zone in different solar systems to try and get some actual better ideas about it.
It'd be cool if we were looking at a planet in the Goldilocks zone and sent a probe there to see if life could form on it, and we found life. That would be extremely exciting.
Well, there's a couple moons in our solar system where they think there is potential for life.
Well, around Jupiter, I know of one. The planet is mostly ice and water, and what they want to do is they want to send a probe to this moon and drill down through the ice. I think it's thousands of feet, and they want to go into the water.
See if there's some microorganisms.
Yeah, see if there's microorganisms or what. It'd be cool if they did do that and they found some sort of alien fish or something. It's advanced life or more advanced life, I guess I should say.
And there's also a planet in the solar system closest to us. It's like 3 light years away. And it's in the Goldilocks zone, but they don't think it has life because it also doesn't have the magnetic core that we have.
Is it another dwarf planet like Sirius?
No, it's 3 times. It's roughly 3 times the size of Earth rotating around a red dwarf. But that red dwarf would have extinguished almost any chance of there being life.
You said in our solar system or in our galaxy?
In the next closest solar system.
Oh, the next closest. Yeah. Okay. Only 3 light years away?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it's close, but we still don't have the technology yet because we keep on shooting ourselves in the foot, not funding NASA fully. But oh well.
That's still
screw that EM drive.
Yeah. All right, so Leia Ramina agrees Tom Cruise could single-handedly end Scientology is the name of the story, and this comes from Entertainment Weekly. Leia Ramina, star and producer of A&E's docuseries Scientology and the Aftermath, agreed with the startling conclusion from Bill Maher on HBO's Real-Time Friday Night. Tom Cruise could single-handedly end the cult of Scientology. And if you haven't heard about this series, Scientology and the Aftermath, you definitely need to watch it. It kind of talks about like what happens in Scientology, what makes it have all these cultish aspects to it, and also what happens when you leave Scientology. It's one of the better document series that has ever existed because it kind of gives you an idea of how cultish it can be. But to continue with the story, as she explained, members of a church, a word she uses loosely when talking about this dogma, are self-brainwashing through hours of daily study. I didn't realize that because we are required to study 2.5 hours a day, like minimum. We are looking up the words. We are being checked out on the policies of Scientology, Ramini, a former member, said. And then Mayer asked, "You're telling me Tom Cruise does this?" And she said, "Yes. Not only does Tom Cruise do exactly that. Now, I don't want you to get the idea that certain policies are not being bent for him. Because they are, and that is the truth, and that is part of the hypocrisy." She agreed with Maher's assertion that Tom Cruise could single-handedly end this, given his celebrity within the church. Now, Tom Cruise is kind of a crazy motherfucker, but it would be awesome because he would take away a lot of the shield that Scientology has because he's the most popular member. So any criticisms against it have been like assuaged by him publicly, and he's like been involved in lawsuits with South Park and stuff like that because he doesn't want that to be available. And also on South Park, they had to take down a couple of episodes based around the Scientology stuff.
Yeah, I remember that.
They had to take them down, huh?
For a minute. They got put back up. Now, the only ones that are still down, that are permanently down on South Park, are the ones with Muhammad.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that isn't funny.
It's pretty interesting. She talked about how, I guess, in Scientology, you're supposed to write, like, reports on everybody. Everybody you're around who's in Scientology. If they do something wrong, you're supposed to write a report and turn them in, basically. And she did that a few times on Tom Cruise, but since he's almighty, she actually got in trouble. And Tom Cruise's people, a bunch of them wrote reports on her to get her in trouble. And she talked about how he basically has an army of people always around him doing everything for him, whatever he
is supposed to be doing.
Whatever he demands. They're like slaves, like maids. They just do everything for him.
Well, I heard that the Church of Scientology looks at Tom Cruise as the next kind of L. Ron Hubbard, like almost like the reincarnation of L. Ron Hubbard, which I believe L. Ron Hubbard said there would be.
Yeah, but that's fucking bullshit. Like, it's the same fucking bullshit. And nobody thinks that, Tom Cruise doesn't think that he's a prophet for the Church of Scientology.
Well, I saw something, I think it was with her, the only reason why the Church of Scientology is doing so good is because of high-profile celebrities who are part of the church. And that's one reason why she thinks Tom Cruise could single-handedly destroy the church, because he could come out and be like, it's a bunch of shit. And that's another thing. They promote high celebrities like that. That's one reason why he has an army of people around him doing everything they want him to do. That way he stays inside of the religion, and they can still get people to come into the religion and pay thousands and thousands upon thousands of dollars to go higher up into the religion.
It also ensures that he's also not getting any critical feedback about it too.
Exactly, yeah.
So, yeah, but I thought that was interesting, and it would be like one of the things, something I dream about. It's whisper of a dream that one of the Mormon prophets comes out and says, "Hey, guys, I've thought about this for a long time. And this is just not cool. But the church probably isn't true. I've never talked to Jesus Christ. I've never had any revelations. This is nonsense." Like that, I mean, because that would be earth-shattering to the Church of Jesus Christ, whatever. But it'd be earth-shattering to the Mormon movement, because that would be like the head of the church saying, this is nonsense. Of course, there would be people who still adhered to it. Like the prophet would come in and say, oh, heresy, or the next in line would say heresy and blah, blah, blah. But it might cause people to wake up. And so, you think about all these really important religious figures and think about the impact that they could have. And hopefully Tom Cruise ends up seeing this and maybe even considers leaving, but who knows?
We shall see. I doubt he'll leave.
Yeah,
Speaking about people waking up, this is kind of off the subject, but I was discussing something. So what if, because there's a lot of LDS people going for the legalization of medical cannabis in Utah, and I suggested them to do something before I got kicked out of that group. And I said, why don't everyone who's an LDS member who agrees with medical cannabis pick a day, and then when they bear their testimony, have it be nothing about the legalization of medical cannabis and how cannabis has helped maybe people they've known. Because the church does hold a lot of sway in legislation. Could that be used as a form of protest that wouldn't get them...
It would possibly get them excommunicated.
It really would, huh?
Yeah. I mean, so... There's a lot of mores and norms in that religion specifically. Like, there's certain ways that you can question things, and there's certain ways you cannot question things. And if you start going down the line of the way you shouldn't question things, if you're doing it through the church, then it becomes quite upsetting to the stake leaders and stake counselors, and then they take you aside and say, "Hey, we're kind of giving you a warning. Like, you're asking questions, and I know they're good questions, but you need to have faith." Brother Soroka or whoever.
but you need to have faith in our Lord.
Yeah.
And don't question
things will work out. No, they will never say don't question things. They will never say that directly. But what they'll say is, hey, we're worried about you. You don't have faith in the actual doctrine of the church. So probably if you got up and bore your testimony and then included that, and I believe Jesus Christ had put medical marijuana or marijuana on this earth to improve the lives of humans, you would get talked to afterwards.
Oh, okay.
And you probably would lose your temple recommend almost immediately.
Really?
Yeah, because you have to be following the words of wisdom, which is don't drink, don't smoke, or don't drink and don't use any illegal substances.
Oh, okay.
And you could be fucking high as a kite on prescribed medication and still hold the temple recommend. But if you're
so why can't they do? Could these people go and talk to their bishop quietly, set up an appointment, and be like, "Look, I know the church is against this, but all this information, all these studies since 1997, there's been 60,000 peer-reviewed studies on medical cannabis, and it's like 80 to 90% all positive."
Yeah, I mean, you could talk to a bishop, but a bishop doesn't have any authority, really. Like, they're over the ward, but that's not going to go up much, and it's not. You're not going to talk a bishop who's indoctrinated into trying marijuana or anything like that. So it's not going to change his mind about it.
Yeah. Okay, well, I was just trying to see if there could be something these LDS members could do to help sway the church instead of the church swaying legislation for everybody who lives in the state, even non-LDS members.
Well, I think the more appropriate way, if you want to keep your temple recommend and stuff like that, would be to go to the streets and protest and say Mormons for marijuana or whatever. But the church... So the last little uprising in the LDS church was for women to have the priesthood, and like 17 people got excommunicated over that. And I mean, it was a very visible story, and so like it caused a lot of members in the church to talk about it, but I mean, it didn't change anything because they still say the prophet is the high authority, and whatever the prophet says, we're going to follow, and you have to have faith in the prophet. Like it's dogma to the core.
Yeah.
Lame.
Yep.
All right, guys, this is coming from pewforum.org.
Pew, pew, pew. Pew, pew, pew.
Americans express increasingly warm feelings towards religious groups. A new Pew Research Center survey finds that when it comes to religion, Americans generally express more positive feelings towards various religious groups today than they did just a few years ago. Asked to rate a variety of groups on a feeling thermometer ranging from 0 to 100, U.S. adults give nearly all groups warmer ratings than they did in June 2014 Pew Research Center survey. So the top two, the bestest groups, the bestest, it's the Jews and the Catholics.
Yay.
And then the bottom, same as always, the atheists and the Muslims.
Look,
But
it hasn't changed for evangelical Christians.
Yep, they're the same, but everybody went up. So the fact that everybody went up, I guess we're still disliked the same amount. You know what I mean? But
Oh, yeah, we're disliked in the same ranking.
same ranking, yes.
Yeah.
But it has gone up. Atheists are at 50 instead of 41. So
Well, I think there's more and more people coming out
Yes.
claiming to be atheists, and people, atheists aren't really all that bad.
Yeah.
Neither are those Jews and Christians and Muslims. Yeah, look, even Muslims have gone up.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I actually take this as a really positive story, honestly.
yeah, it is absolutely.
Because what you're seeing is an average of probably 5 points. Every religious group jumps up. So that means that people are less prejudiced against other people based on their religious affiliations.
And if
Well,
you look
it is
at
an
it,
average of 5 points, except for the evangelicals. They've
An
people's-
average.
Well, yeah, but then you look, it's an average of 10 points for Muslims, atheists, Mormons, and Hindus, and Buddhists.
yeah, so we went up, atheists went up 9 points, where Jews and Catholics went up 4 points.
Yeah,
We're increasing at a higher rate,
yeah.
according to this one.
Yeah, and again,
Yeah.
it's more people are less prejudiced, and that I always take as a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. So,
Except against the evangelical Christians, it's the exact same.
Yeah.
Fucking
Well,
annoying.
those are like the
Born again Christians and
or the protester, like
Yeah.
the Baptist church,
the annoying
the
branch
annoying
of the
ones,
Christians.
yeah,
and if
that are gonna go protest a funeral.
go, you guys can find this at pewforum.org. It's a good article, and it also breaks it down into age group, how people of certain age groups look at these different religious groups.
Oh wow, look at that! People 18 to 29, Mormons are less liked than anyone else.
And atheists are 59%, tied with evangelical Christians and above mainline Protestants and Muslims.
And look, Buddhists are liked more than all of them. It goes Buddhists, Catholics, Hindus, Jews, atheists, evangelical Christians, mainline Protestants, Muslims, Mormons.
It's kind of funny that the Mormons are at the bottom.
Way down there. But and Buddhists, I guess, are closest to atheism than any of that.
Yeah, a lot of them,
technically.
it depends on the sect of Buddhism, but a lot of them, they don't even have an actual God.
Yeah.
They consider questions of God like an afterthought, most of them. Most of them, I guess.
But when you get into older age groups, obviously, atheists and Muslims are all the way at the bottom.
But that's like, see, even 30 to 49-year-olds, atheists are still above Mormons and Muslims, which is funny. But then, yeah, you get into the 50 and up, and atheists and Muslims are clear at the bottom.
Yeah.
But that makes me feel good. I feel like a lot of the younger generations in America are wise enough to be like, oh, well, atheists aren't these evil people running around
you guys
stabbing people.
You guys
and-
might need to change your YouTube name at this rate.
Yeah.
So, and another interesting point, if you look at this, the older people, it's a large spectrum. It's a large gap between the top and the bottom. It's 75% to 44%. Where the younger people, it's all kind of bunched together in the middle, 66 to 54, which means the younger people are looking at everybody like, yeah, you're all the fucking same, you know?
Yeah.
As long as you're not killing everybody, you're all the fucking same.
Yeah, it's so 12-point difference here and 75 to 44. That's a 29-point difference approximately.
Yeah.
Not exactly.
So it's good. Everybody's starting to look at religion, kind of on the same field, as long as you're not hurting anyone.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that they can't do the same poll on, and maybe they have, but on ethnicity or race. Like that would be interesting too, to see how it broken down by age groups, how people feel about people who come from different countries.
Oh yeah, I imagine it'd be similar and stuff. Because I remember my grandma. She was just the things that would come out of her mouth were racist. You know, like just like little things, and it was like, when you're a kid, you don't really realize it. The older we got, it was like, oh my god, she's racist as shit.
It's just like on Clerks too.
Yeah,
the porch monkey joke.
Porch monkey, bringing it back.
I'm reclaiming it. I thought it was just a lazy person on the porch. My grandma really was racist.
Yeah, it really was like that. You remember some of the things she'd teach us. It was like, and I remember doorbell ditching. I'm going to just bring that up. When we were younger, I remember my grandma calling it the N-word knocking.
Wow.
And so we'd run around, the neighborhoods at night, let's go N-word knocking, And then the older I got, I was like, wait a minute. Holy shit, that's racist. Like, And so we totally changed it to doorbell ditching.
Good.
Yeah. But
well, let's roll along. Are you out of stories?
I got one more science story, bitch.
Let's do it. I've got one more story, too.
You want to go first?
No, you go.
All right. All right, this is another science story. Do I get another science song?
No, you get one science song.
One science song per podcast.
Even if I do more than one science story?
Yeah, we've already talked
That's
about it.
That's unfair.
Why is it unfair? I don't get any songs.
Hey, I'll write a song just for you.
Will it be a love song? Because I asked for it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, God.
Because I need one?
What was the name of that singer?
I'm
Yeah.
going to write you a love song because you asked for it. I'm not going to write you a love song.
Yeah. All right, so this is coming from I Fucking Love Science. Now, this is some really important stuff. Did any of you two ever see the movie with Al Gore?
An Inconvenient Truth?
Yeah,
I've not.
Inconvenient Truth.
Inconvenient Truth.
They talk about ocean. When the ocean warms up a little bit, it causes so much damage. You have no idea. Well, this This is explaining what happens, and it is talking about how it is happening right now.
Mm.
Okay, this is really bad stuff, guys. All right. So, we know that climate change is having a drastic impact on the ice caps and glaciers, but it is also changing the chemical makeup of the oceans. While the levels of carbon dioxide are increasing, a new paper has documented how the concentration of oxygen in the oceans is decreasing. I feel like it should have said are decreasing. The results have been published in Nature and are an analysis of 50 years worth of data looking at a range of parameters from ocean salinity to temperature. They calculated that over this period, the world's oceans have lost an average of 2% of their oxygen. This may not sound like much, but the researchers note that even such a small drop in oxygen concentration can be enough to completely alter some ecosystems, including the formation of dead zones. Okay, now think about all these animals we have washing up on shore lately, groups and groups of these huge die-offs.
Yeah.
Okay, think about that. The main process through which the oceans are losing their oxygen is simply the heating of the water. As the oceans warm, their ability to trap dissolved oxygen decreases, which is why colder waters on Earth contain a lower concentration of the gas. But this warming of the ocean has another effect. As warming is generally contained to the upper reaches of the ocean, it decreases the density of the surface water, preventing it from dropping to the depths and taking the life-giving oxygen with it. Okay? So the more the ocean warms, the harder it is for oxygen to come down into the depths of the ocean. Combined with the myriad of other impacts climate change is having on the oceans, the result of this drop in oxygen could be catastrophic. As the polar ice caps melt, the increase in fresh water is expected to disrupt the ocean currents, something some argue have been driven by the abnormal weather conditions seen in the past few winters over much of the northern Europe and America. The increase in carbon dioxide levels in the seas while beneficial for some organisms, is likely to be harmful to many others. By increasing the acidity of the water, creatures with calcium carbonate shells simply dissolve away, including the vast coral reefs in the tropics. And that has been happening. We've been losing a lot of our coral reefs, and it is estimated that over 3 billion people depend on the marine environment for their livelihoods. As climate change starts to radically impact these ecosystems, it will have a dramatic knock-on effect on the future of not only these people, but all of us.
Yeah, so let's kind of dummy it down a little bit because I'm not the brightest student. So, Matt, you have a fish tank, right?
Oh, yeah.
So what would happen if I were to change the salinity or the or the acidity of the fish tank much?
That would be your pH level.
Yeah, your pH level.
Yeah, everything would die, or has the potential to die.
Yeah, and how much? I mean, what's the pH you have to keep it within?
I think mine is around 8.
So if it were to drop to 7, would that be pretty traumatic for the tank?
It's pretty bad. Yeah, the window is very small.
Yeah, it's between, what is it, like 6 and 8, somewhere in there.
It depends on the fish.
Yeah, is livable, like your goldfish type fish who don't mind colder waters and stuff like that, and are freshwater. They can handle a little less, but most of your fish are kind of in between 7 and 8.
So, like, all of the things that matter in your fish tank, we were talking about pH level. We're talking about what's the other thing that I mentioned at first? Salinity, which is salt.
Yeah.
Salt.
Also, we're talking about temperature. We're talking about, so it's a pretty fragile
temperature
thing.
is. Oh yeah, one little factor can change the entire ecosystem of the tank and kill everything.
And one of the main things is oxygen too. Like the story discussed, you change the density of the top water, it can't bring oxygen down into the depths of the ocean.
Yeah.
So you have huge die-offs like whales and whatnot. But now think about this. In oxygen, most tanks, Matt's included, and even like mine, I have a little oxygen pump pumping oxygen into the tank from the bottom, and it comes up, and it's all these little bubbles. Though that's extremely important. When my electricity was shut off, that oxygen bubbles stopped coming through, and the air pump stopped pumping oxygen into the tank. Within hours, I lost all my fish.
Yes.
Yeah.
And planted tanks, if there's a lot of plants in there, you don't need a bubbler because the plant is putting in oxygen. But if your plants are dying, it's a chain reaction. Your plants will die, and then your fish will die, and so many little factors that can just kill everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but at least you have control over it because it's a small aquarium. But with something in the ocean, like there's not other places that these fish can go. They either die or and sometimes they move, and sometimes they are able to migrate a little bit.
I was reading another article. It looks like some of the cod have been moving more north, and which is funny. It changes your fishing grounds.
Yeah, and these plumes, which are obvious because plumes are supposed to be within control, but some of these plumes have been getting out of control where they're killing off other organisms in those biospheres because it's getting warmer earlier. They're starting to plume earlier. And so all of these things are contributing to what will probably be another mass extinction on this planet.
Well, we're already seeing a lot of that. People are wondering why are all these whales washing up on shore all of a sudden?
Yeah,
and stuff
or
like
starfish,
that.
or I mean,
and
there's lots of examples of this.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's something that you do not have to extrapolate much on. You just need to understand maybe the basics of an aquarium, and also just follow the science on like the reports on mass deaths from the ocean, and you can see for a fact that climate change is drastically having an effect on the ocean. And that's another thing too, is our planet isn't warming up as fast as it should be, and that's because the ocean has been absorbing a lot of the carbon dioxide. So the ocean's getting the worst of it.
Yep.
All right, but to continue on, this is from CNN. CNN it's called Shafit's Good Latte asks government watchdogs to investigate leaks by Ellie Watkin. And this is Washington. Two top House Republicans asked the Inspector General on Wednesday to investigate leaks surrounding the ouster of the former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. The request came in a letter from Republican Jason Chaffetz, the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, and Republican Bob Goodlatte. chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. We request that your office begin an immediate investigation into whether classified information was mishandled here, the letter to the Inspector General read. Trump's administration has been beset by damaging leaks over the first month, including reports of Flynn's contact with the Russian ambassador to the U.S. in December that ultimately led to his downfall. Trump himself has decried such leaks as the real scandal. Chaffetz, Utah Republican, has so far declined to investigate President Donald Trump's potential conflicts of interest or potential ties to Russia himself or his aides. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about this story is because Chaffetz is the guy who is one of the main people who kept on trying to find shit about Obama.
Yeah,
and he was hard pressed against Obama, and the House of Republicans had 7 different investigations into what was it called?
Benghazi?
Yeah, Benghazi. And all of this was to slander the president, and there was nothing there. And now that a Republican is in the White House, he wants to investigate the leaks. So there's either treason or some leaks, and instead of prioritizing the potential that there was treason, at least including Flynn, and might also include Donald Trump and Vice President Pence, instead of investigating the potential treason, they want to investigate who's doing the leaks.
And that's the thing. I remember during the campaigns, when all WikiLeaks was spilling all these leaks about Hillary, Donald Trump was like, hey, screw, who cares who's leaking all this stuff? Worry about the content.
Yeah.
And then now that WikiLeaks is spitting shit out about Trump.
Well, no, it's not WikiLeaks. It's the government insiders.
Oh,
These are
okay.
government These are people in the intelligence agency. And part of the reason is because they're supposed to report to Donald Trump, right?
Yeah.
But you can't report, hey, you might be committing treason because you're having these unofficial conversations with Russian politics through your associates.
Yeah.
So they can't report that to him. And so the reason why his cabinet is leaking so much is because they want to bring it to the American people. They want to say, hey, this is something that needs to be investigated. And unless you guys put pressure on your politicians, it's never going to happen.
Yeah. But now he's pissed about the content that's being leaked
Yeah.
Now he's like,
ignore
don't listen to the content.
Ignore the content and go for the actual leaks.
Yeah.
It's a complete reversal.
It's a double standard, 100%.
God, I would love to. Jason Chaffetz said he's not going to investigate in a town hall recently that we talked about last week.
Yeah, that was.
And he just is such a fucking. I'm trying to remember the word. Partisan. He's so fucking partisan with the way he does his job that it's absurd.
Yeah.
I really fucking want to get a sign over his house, the closest billboard to where he lives, because he lives I think in Utah County.
Yeah.
And put it up saying, "Do your job, Jason Chaffetz. Investigate the treason."
Maybe we can get God to, because God likes to, fund things like that. Maybe we can write God Facebook God.
Oh.
You're looking at me like, what in the fuck? But, he got a bunch of billboards up about, gay rights and all that stuff. But maybe we can ask him to do something like that in Provo.
Yeah, because I don't think this is a partisan thing. I think that and I saw a video from a Mormon person who was in his ward at some point.
Yeah.
Saying, and he put out the harshest criticism I've seen of Chaffetz, saying, "Hey, this is not a partisan issue. A third of the people at that town hall were Republican, and half of the town hall was Mormon.
Yeah.
This is for him to try and pretend that it's only Democrats and it's only atheist Democrats or liberal or non-religious Democrats." For him to pretend that, and that he said that we're getting paid, by Soros.
All these people started sending in their pay stubs and stuff that from work around here locally, because they were local people saying, "Hey, you know what? I am one of your
constituents."
Yeah, and I'm not just some paid person from out of town. That's what he was claiming. And then after that, all that shit too, he was even heard saying he's never doing a town hall meeting outside of Provo.
Yeah, and I hope he does one in Provo, and so that we can go to Provo and yell at him there, because what he's doing is so partisan, and it's so we're talking about treason. We're talking about somebody making deals with a foreign entity that does not have American interests in mind at all.
Not at all.
Who is and actually Russia's trying to undermine our interests, and yet he's just okay with it. Fucking bullshit.
Yep.
It's pretty sad.
All right, Matt. And now that I'm off my soapbox or whatever the fuck.
Here we go. Pat Robertson.
the press is against him. So, you know, you read the Bible, and there was a point in there where God told Jeremiah, he said, tell them to take the yoke of Nebuchadnezzar, and they didn't want to do it. And you read the Psalms, I believe the second Psalm, which says, you know, why do the nations rage and imagine a vain thing, and they revolt against the Lord and his anointed? I think somehow the Lord's plan is being put in place for America, and these people are not only revolting against Trump, they're revolting against what God's plan is for America. These other people have been trying to destroy America. These left-wingers and so-called progressives are trying to destroy the country that we love and take away the freedoms they love. They want collectivism, they want socialism, and what we're looking at is free markets and a freedom from this terrible overarching bureaucracy. And they want to fight as much as they can, but I think the good news is the Bible says, he that sits in the heavens will laugh them to scorn. And I think that Trump's got something on his side that is a lot more powerful than the media.
God, it's so laughable, but I'm sure you want to talk about it.
I just wanted to point out that, you know, if you don't agree with the politician, and it's like I said earlier, you know, your God always seems to agree with you. If you don't like that politician, or if you don't agree with that politician, it's against God. You know, it's that extreme. It is against God. But as soon as somebody goes in, even if they're a shitty person like Trump is, but they're doing the things you like, God's condoning it. It's all about God.
Yeah, and it's so like now he's conflating that if you go against Trump, you're going against God's will. So-called progressives, that's a funny statement, because like we're trying to progress to a place where people are equal. I mean that's what the term progressive should mean, as far as I understand it. And I can't help but listen to any argument made in that tone without thinking about like where the conservatives were 60 years ago, where they were fighting against civil rights. Like that same argument that he was making there could be for not slavery, but somebody who's against equal rights for Black Americans. So it just sounds absurd anytime that I hear one of those arguments. What's
Joe has some weird-ass video playing in the back. I just look over and see some weird-ass video.
I was hoping Joe had some insightful commentary.
I did, but
Everybody's looking at porn.
I know. I looked at Facebook, and then this video came up, and I just totally, like, everything went out of my brain. And I was like, what in the hell? And then it made me giggle, and I'm sorry. I
was like,
I got ADHD.
I was
okay?
like, what did I say that Joe and Matt are laughing at me for?
Well, should we wrap this up?
I think we should, I guess, at this point.
Yeah.
All right. Well, make sure to check us out on the channel ZZZ John Wick, The Evil Atheist, and join us on the Evil Atheist Facebook group page. We definitely want you there. We would love to have more people.
And you guys can shoot us an email at recklesslyskeptical@gmail.com.
Yeah, don't be afraid to communicate to us, and you know, even if you disagree with some of the things we say, you know, just let us know.
I doubt anybody's afraid. Just nobody cares.
Yeah, no one cares.
Or you can leave a comment in the comment section of this video if you're watching it on YouTube.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.